Good morning. Welcome to everyone. I am Kathy Magnuson and I am the owner of Wildewood Learning, where I help parents with creating educational plans for their teens and tweens and young adults. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ways of learning. And somebody might show up here today that's going to help explain to us the different ways of learning and why it might be so important for your teen or tween to know how they learn. Also for yourself to know how you learn. So I'm going to start out with a story about my son when he was in 6th grade. And he said to me, he came home from school one day and he said to me, "Mom, school feels like jail, and the bars are so close together that I feel like I can't get out." And that was said to me in the fall of his 6th grade year. And so he was describing his day at school. He struggled day after day with his classes, and at one point I was this close from pulling him out of public school and homeschooling him. It was really hard to watch him struggle after day and come home with a disappointing day from school because I really wanted him to enjoy learning. And I'm a trained teacher, yet I didn't know what to do with his comments at all. He was an ADHD child, and he was a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. So, we're all human. We all learn. And each of us has a unique style of learning and a preferred way of organizing, gathering, thinking about information. And I called upon my good friend, Captain VARK, to come here today and help explain all these different ways of learning. Let's see if she's around. Da-da-da! Here is Captain VARK. I'm Captain VARK. I'm here to explain to you that there is 4 different ways of learning and taking in information. And there are 4 different ways that you can learn or know about that information. Well, tell me, Captain VARK, how can we find out about this information? What are those 4 different ways? Well, let me tell you. V, A, R, and K stands for VARK. And those are those 4 different ways of learning. So one of the different ways, which is the letter V in my name, is visual. Visual things are through people who learn visually, learn through charts, they learn through graphs, they look at symbols, and they prefer to take in their information in that form. This doesn't really include pictures or movies or videos because those fall into my K category. But charts and symbols for words are the way to go for these kinds of learners. The A is oral or auditory, hearing. Taking in that information is best learned through spoken word, people talking about the information, presentations. If you're getting something out of this, you might be an auditory or oral learner. The R in VARK stands for reading and writing. This is the preferred way of taking in this information is through books, lists, looking at websites. You might have a really strong preference for this if you do well in school. Students who do well in school usually have the reading, writing way of taking in information. And lots of teachers have that too. The last one is kinesthetic. And that's learning by doing. And so you might be moving around, doing a bunch of different things, taking in those experiences through your environment. You're using like all your senses, your smell, your taste, your touch. These kind of learners are really known as learning by doing. So, Captain VARK, thanks for that information. But where did that come from? Who created the VARK system? Wow. Neil Fleming, a New Zealander who was a teacher and researcher, and he noticed in his classroom that all the students were learning in maybe different ways. So he developed a really short questionnaire to help them figure out what their preferred style of learning is. And he noticed too that these styles are not in our brain or hardwired in our brain at birth. In fact, it's more dynamic. They go up and down. It's just like, your preferences for food or for color or for music might change as you grow older. So might your learning styles. If you have younger children, they are more geared toward kinesthetic learning. Whereas if you have an older student, as they age, they might have not just one, but multiple ways of learning. So Neil Fleming really found this to be an empowering way to have his students learn. He matched up different learning strategies that go with the different ways of learning. So he could really see a difference that from teaching them the VARK system, they did much better in their classes than being taught just a basic study skills class. It was really empowering for them as students to get that information and know how they are learning and know that they're really not that square peg. Well, Captain VARK, thanks for sharing all that information with us. Wow, I didn't know there were 4 different ways of learning. I'm a parent of 4 teens. Do you think I might learn in a different way? Definitely, Kathy. Your learning might be of one of these different ways or even multiple ways. And it's really important for you to know that because you probably learn different than your children learn. So I hope this really empowers you as a parent to go out there and find out how you learn best. Wow, thanks, Captain VARK. Thanks for all that information and thanks for empowering me as a parent to know the different ways of learning. You're welcome, Kathy. Ta-da, ta-da! I must go off now and show others those different ways of learning. Bye, Captain VARK. Wow, that was really informative. Well, after my son was coming home with such a disappointing day at school, and as a teacher, I really thought, I'm going to start digging into these different ways of learning. And what I noticed and what I found out was there was a poll that was done by Gallup. And in that poll of 5th through 12th graders, this information was provided. And they found out that about 50% of the students said that they were really engaged in learning. About 29% were not engaged, and 22% were actively disengaged. So as you see here on this bottom chart, as the grade is up here, and as their engagement in learning declines as they get into the high school grades. Wow, that was really great information to know. So I thought, should teachers be changing the way that they teach? Or should students be changing the way that they learn? Well, that's a really great question to ask, and I would say both need to learn more about their preferences of learning. A really great teacher will be aware of all these different preferences and how students take in their information, and they'll provide a variety of different ways for those kids to take in the information so it meets all those different ways of learning. There again, An excellent student is one that knows their preferred way of learning and all the other unique and special features about themselves, and they can make that difference from themselves, within themselves, knowing those different strategies on how they might learn best. An excellent student is also one that is aware that learning needs to be backed by effort. So you're kind of maybe wondering, how did it turn out with my son, who was that square peg trying to fit into a round hole? How did it end up in school? Well, I would have to say his 6th grade year was quite a struggle for him. However, it helped me to find out more about his learning styles and dig deeper in with Capt and VARK. My son, he is definitely a kinesthetic learner. He loves to do things that are hands-on, and he likes videos, pictures, practical things in the real world. However, as I've noticed over the years as he's grown, because he's now in 9th grade, that he has kind of tendencies towards his auditory learning style. And we'll pick up a lot just through listening and hearing and talking about it. He has definitely changed over the years from that 6th grade boy who dreaded on going to school every day into a young man who is finding the best way to learn for himself. So I believe empowering teachers, parents, students, all with the idea of understanding how they learn best, can really improve the quality of learning for the student and for themselves. And I would say that this would help children who feel like square pegs start believing that they're not. I work with parents and teens, and within that work, we find out what really works for them. We customize an educational plan for tweens all the way up to young adults about how they could do well in school, or what they can do best as they enter into the world and into secondary learning or into the world of work. So I encourage you to go to Wildewood Learning, which is www.WILDWOOD.learning.com. Check out my services page and how I could work with you and your family and helping unleash the brilliance of your child, and so that they can become a better learner. So thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again. And who knows what might show up on the Wildewood Learning Facebook Live video. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks.